Good. So now for David's tech tip, there's a big thing that tells me that there's a recording in progress. So I have to run to my computer and get that out. I want to get rid of that, David. All right. Way to go, everybody. You're here. Thank you for joining live, and thank you for watching on the video later if you didn't make the class live. I hope you're doing well with your practice. Every little practice that you do on your own, however long, I want you to mark it down in some way. Remember, I made this little chart for you. It was attached to the first handouts, but you can make one of your own or record it in any way. We're looking for 64 practices. And if you practice 64 times in our practice period, then you're entered into a draw. And I'll tell you more about prizes for that draw. But one of the prizes today that I'll just mention quickly is the Anatomy of Hatha Yoga. Look at this book. That is going to be in the draw. It's a classic, especially for teachers. It's not just anatomy, it's Anatomy of Hatha Yoga. So keep practicing. Hope you win that. It's a beautiful book. So today, a practice for the central nervous system, a practice of yoga for the central nervous system. Remember, you're looking for a match. So this might be the one. This might be the class that is a match for your body that you can use and use it as a default practice. That would be wonderful. One of the beautiful terribles about being human is that we live in these bodies, and they're beautiful and they're terrible. 1 minute beautiful, and the very next moment suffering. And a beautiful thing is that we're all so different. We're all so completely unique and different. But that's also a terrible thing, because I don't understand what somebody else might be going through. And neither do you. We just don't know what it's like to be in somebody else's body and experiencing trauma from who knows what and from how early an age. And some of you have experienced trauma, as we know, from generations previous to our own. And so we have these patterns in our body that are not even, we don't even feel responsible, and yet the patterns keep showing up. And so yoga is a really good way of cutting into those patterns, right? Partly just because we start noticing more, we notice our proclivities, we notice our tendencies, right? So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And in yoga, we practice something called Ujjayi breathing, which tethers our mind to our body and helps us to practice one thing, and that is smooth, calm awareness. No matter what kind of stress we feel, we put ourselves in a stressful situation in one of those postures where we're requiring ourselves to stretch really deeply and feel things that are not great in the body. And we're saying this, right? It's a very good way to just train yourself not to identify with the pain or the stretching sensation. Sometimes it just is, but just to feel and hear and listen to the sound of the breath and move smoothly with the sound of the breath. Now, the body does a very good job of taking care of itself even without yoga. Did you know, for example, that in tears, when we cry, in the tears, there is serotonin. So that's a beautiful thing. Within the release of crying, the serotonin helps you to relax. And did you know, you did know, when you're afraid and when you need to act quickly, all of the body's blood and energy goes to the brain so that we can think clearly. Blood and energy goes to the limbs so that we can move really quickly if we need to. That's a beautiful thing. And did you know, maybe you did, that when we're processing something that's very sad, somebody leaves us, somebody dies, the activity in the brain slows down. So that maybe is just a way of giving us time to process something that's deep. Less activity in the mind is actually very helpful. So all of this is pretty beautiful until it's not, until there's some kind of loop. So if you're chronically being afraid, even when you don't need to be afraid, all of that cortisol and adrenaline plays havoc with our digestive system, because that's, not where the body perceives that energy has to go to the brain and to the limbs, not to the digestive system. So playing havoc with your digestive system is kind of crucial, especially in Ayurveda and Ayurvedic yoga, but also the sexual organs don't get what they need. So this repeated pattern of being afraid when you didn't need to be afraid is something that you want to notice and take a hold of. And the same would go for anger and all the emotions. If they're looping, you want to be able to step in with your Ujjayi breath and say, that's enough of that. Let's just concentrate on this. And even sadness, people that are chronically sad, if there's less activity in the brain, then that creates its own force field of kind of a listlessness. So when you're depressed and you can't step out of that depression because there's so little activity, well, then we step it up with our breathing practices. So let's begin the class, and I'm sure you can just follow along. We're kind of into the realm of what we did last week with a few of the breathing practices. You need to be able to sit up well for that. David's instructing some people on that, but remember, sit up on a block or a cushion, or kneel, or put a cushion between your legs, or sit on a chair for the breathing practices. Okay, that's the end of our introduction. Thank you.